Well, Jeremy, thank you so much for jumping in and hanging out with us. We had people from all over the country today. I mean, I saw Arizona, we saw Dallas, I saw Brooklyn, New York in here, which is, man, not close to Texas. If you don't own the globe, we've got Floyd in Virginia. And yeah, as you see, Peggy was in Colorado. I saw literally people all over the country chiming in to really better understand how does this work, right? And how can they start to develop some of these skill sets that you've taken and really grown with? And I want to start this kind of after party as people are typing in the question box right now. Type in your comments for Eddie or for Joe or even for Jeremy, and we'll kind of dig into that. But one of the things I wanted to talk about first was I love that when you told this story, you didn't start it with, well, I had a bunch of rich friends, and so I knew they would be the ones to loan me all the money because they like me, and since I grew a beard, I look older, right? Like that wasn't the conversation. Instead, it was I went to strangers who didn't know me at all. I provided them value, and they said, "Hey, I want to work with this guy." I think that's huge from a mental standpoint because people have these limiting beliefs they put on themselves that say, "I don't know anybody rich. I don't have any access to capital." And as weird as it sounds, with that attitude, you're probably right. You probably don't, right? But a little education, a little conversation, and like you said, a little posting for free on Facebook, it goes a long way. Almost $2 million and in under 2 years as well. I saw it was actually September of 2019. So under 2 million, but under 2 years. Very, very impressive stuff.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Eddie, tell us a little bit more about, from a raising capital standpoint, what are some of the other things that people might need to be, asking and thinking about?
Well, I think always, Brian, we always teach the concept of working with passive investors and just showing them some basic stuff. Some of us want to overteach. Mm-hmm. And that's why I said that if you do a super detailed training, which Joe and I or you could easily do, but you're sort of giving them, you're sort of confusing them. They want to know why. They want to know what the summary of it is. If I put up some money, what would I get, and how would I feel secure? And Jeremy has clearly done a great job. Jeremy, did you not raise $100,000 the first meeting you had?
Yes, from a person that I just met that day, and they came through meetup.com. And again, it's kind of lucky, right? But you got to put yourself in places to get lucky and then be consistent with it.
Hey, Jeremy, just one question before Eddie jumps in there. And that was a high rate of interest. Half or 6, something like that.
It cut out just a little bit. Say that last part.
So what rate of return were they looking for? I think it was 5.5 or 6, right?
Yeah, 5.5 for one. I mean, it ranges anywhere from that's pretty low. But I mean, I've paid higher than that for other deals as well. But again, it's hard money. You got to put money down, and it's high interest. Soft money, you pay them interest, and they're typically willing to cover every cent. And you don't have to come out of pocket one dime on rehab, and then there's the note people.
Well, and I think, Jeremy, too, as the story progresses in understanding creative financing, whether that's buying notes or whether creative financing is buying property on the creative terms, then you start understanding the power of what long-term, inexpensive private capital can mean. And of course, to the investor, as you sort of alluded to, these guys have owned rental houses, and they've all had an Excel spreadsheet, and the Excel spreadsheet told them how good it was going to be, right? Oh, yeah. And then they have a checking account, and unfortunately, the money that the Excel spreadsheet said was going into your checking account didn't exactly go in there for the surprises, right?
Yep.
And the cool thing about notes is legitimately the investor gets essentially what the Excel spreadsheet says he's going to get. Right? Because they're the bank, they're not a landlord, and you just done a great job of just gently showing them that message.
Absolutely. And I think what's interesting too, and it kind of brings it back to the point that you mentioned a minute ago, which is Jeremy's not going in there and explaining how a carburetor on a car works so that they'll eventually buy the car, right? He's saying you want to go from point A to point B, right? And every investor, like Eddie said, it boils down to those same two things. Hey, what do I get? I need to get something awesome. And then more importantly, what happens if everything goes wrong? How am I protected, right? And by simplifying this message, you're actually making it a lot easier for yourself. And so what I want to do is, as you guys are in the chat box here, I would love to know, what are your struggles with raising capital? Put them into the comment section right now, because what I want to do, if we have time during the show, we'd love to address some of those. But even if we don't have time today, type them into the comments, because we do follow up. We'll make sure those questions get answered. And again, if you're somebody who's just like, I just need more help with this, again, reach out through the contact us page or go to noteschool.com/TV if that's beneficial for you.
I did want to say too, I'm actually doing a Facebook Live note meetup tomorrow. It's the second Thursday of the month. So if anybody did want to just see what that looked like, you are more than welcome to do it. And you can find me on meetup.com, Facebook. Just Google or put in Summit Cove Realty. I guess you can't really see that, but you can find me on Facebook, Jeremy Scott. Otherwise, if you look on meetup.com, you'll see the Note Investment Group and the
Can you say the name of it again, Jeremy?
Summit Cove Realty.
Summit Cove Realty. Okay.
Yes. Yep. So yeah, you guys are more than welcome to tune into that and get some ideas. Joe has seen it a time or two.
Been on there live a couple of times. Very good. And one of the things that I like about it, and I was talking to Eddie about this, you know, you don't try to be this big slick guy, you know, and it's a conversation. And that's why, you know, we talk about all the time, every week when we're talking about with our Note School students, is it's just having a conversation, right? It's not, you don't have to sell, you don't have to push them. It's just, you know, you give them the right content and they'll make that decision right in their mind. And that's what it really is all about, is just a conversation.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Well, then you'll run them away if you start saying, come on, give me your money, give me your money.
Yeah, absolutely. And I see that Gary has a question for us that we're going to go ahead and address real quick in these final minutes of the show. He said, what is the first thing you would do to meet private investors starting out? And I'd like to, I know you've already addressed a couple of different things, but one of the things that this is something that people skip over because they think it's not a big deal, but I'm telling you, mindset is a pretty big thing. You have to convince yourself that you don't need short-term money at 12%. That's step number one, right? And then it kind of just develops from there and grows like you've seen. Joe, Eddie, you want to chime in on anything on that?
Yeah, if you don't believe, you know, I talk to people all the time that don't believe there's billions of dollars of long-term private capital that will give you money for 5 to 20 years at 5% interest. They don't believe it. Well, if you don't believe it, you're not going to do it. So let me just say that Note School has now a lot of evidence from a lot of different people that have done it. And I agree with you, Brian. If the first thing you have to know is it is a reality. It can happen. And then somebody like Jeremy has just simply gone through the steps. So you don't borrow expensive money, right, Jeremy?
Not very often. I'd be lying if I said I hadn't done a hard money loan this year, but very, very little.
It doesn't matter how much you pay for money if you're only going to borrow the money for 90 days.
Right.
Okay. I don't care what the interest rate is. That's not long-term money.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
Long-term and inexpensive, that combination together is what lets you use these creative financing techniques.
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
That's it.